Come on, Annie. Let's go to the movies.
This is the Cinereelists, episode 484. My name is Kyle.
My name is James.
And my name is Zach.
And we're here to talk about movies, movie lists, and movie obsession for the next hour or so. Happy summer, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks, Kyle. Is it officially summer? Is it like the first day of summer or something?
Yesterday was officially the first day of summer, but
okay.
I thought I'd welcome you today.
The first day of summer's on the 20th?
Yeah, the solstice.
Wow.
I had to look it up to. I see it's always like the 20th or 21st or 22nd, somewhere in there. So I had to look it up to confirm.
Very cool.
I never pay attention to those things. Is that like a thing that normal people do? I just kind of roll from one season to another, and I'm like, oh, I think it's winter.
Well, we actually have a friendship tradition around the solstice, so that's why I'm kind of always aware of it.
Who does? You and Zach?
No. Sorry. No, my family, like, and another family we're friends with.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
You have a solstice tradition?
Yeah, you know, we burn things in effigy.
And dance around.
And dance around. No, we have friends. They don't celebrate Christmas. They celebrate Merrymas, which it's Christmas minus the religious overtones. And they always save their trees every year. And then at the solstice, we have a big bonfire where we burn their Merrymas tree from 6 months ago.
They save their Christmas tree for 6 months and then burn it?
It's such a long time to save it.
Well, they put it outside. It's not like it's in the house or it's on display.
It's true.
It's
and they
dried
specifically
out.
Wait until the solstice to burn it.
Yeah, right. Because, you know, Christmas is around the shortest day of the year. And then you wait 6 months. Now you're at the longest day of the year and get your pagan on.
What a strange tradition.
No, it's great. It is something I look forward to every summer. This year, we had 3 Merrymas trees, and we leaned them all together. And we always try and find different ways to light them on fire. So we built smaller bonfires beneath each one and lit those so that each tree caught. And then there was this one huge plume of flame in the sky. It was pretty cool.
Nothing makes a satisfying bonfire like dead Christmas trees. They really do light up.
And they catch so fast and they crackle, and the pillar of fire is something to behold.
This does, like, if I was given no real context, or like I didn't know you, Kyle, and somebody was describing this, I'd be like, he's in a cult for sure.
You know, we've now started watching Midsummer before we light them on fire, just to set the mood.
Right. For sure.
Maybe Wicker Man before that.
Cool. Well, when does fall start? Because I'm ready. It's way too hot in Orlando.
It's so hot.
How hot is it?
It's ridiculous. You know what's crazy is when I moved here from California in 1992, I moved from like the beaches of California where it rarely got over like 85 degrees, right? Like just a couple days of the year it got over 85. And so we moved here right at the beginning of summer. The same year Terminator 2 came out. I think that was 92. And I literally could not breathe every time I walked out the door. Like I couldn't breathe. It was so muggy that I thought I was going to die. And now I'm sure it's even more muggy and it does not bother me at all. I mean, it's 20, 30 plus years later, but not 30, it's 20. But it's weird how your body just gets used to things. And
yeah,
you're just like, oh yeah, it's not a big deal. It's muggy. Who cares?
Zach, what was your transition like going from Wisconsin, which we have muggy summers,
For sure.
to Florida?
I would say Wisconsin gets very muggy as well. It's definitely different here. But I tend to think of myself as fairly temperature neutral, meaning I'm very adaptive to wherever I am. It's not like I'm miserable in the cold or miserable in the heat, but it gets really hot. It gets really hot down here.
You also keep your house at like 80 degrees.
Yeah.
I was so hot when I visited you, like inside the house.
That was 100% on you because I gave you full carte blanche on the thermostat. Full carte blanche.
So at night, I turned it down to like 75 when I was downstairs.
Good, great.
So to cool off, but sometimes I'm like, it's so still and hot in this house.
That was your decision making.
I was afraid of breaking your fans. Some of them, I pull that chain and the whole thing's gonna come down.
Yeah, he didn't turn on his ceiling fan because he thought he'd break it.
Well, I did it in your old. I broke a fan in your old house.
Did you really?
Yeah, you don't remember this?
No, I don't.
It was in the guest room, and I pulled the chain, and the whole thing came out.
So that's why you were a little gun shy.
Yeah. So now I'm now I'm just been.
Kyle, any mistakes you've ever made, I don't remember them. I only remember your successes.
Yes, you've never thrown things back in my face from 29 years ago. It's never come up.
Can't think of a one.
Nope. Perfect friendship.
James, on the other hand, I remember everything wrong he's ever done.
Well, story of my life. All right, let's get into this. Episode 484. A few little housekeeping things to discuss, and then we'll jump into our review for the week. There's a video version of this podcast on YouTube. Go to youtube.com/Cinereelists. That's not the domain. Go to youtube.com, search Cinereelists. And from there, you can get to the YouTube channel. You can watch these episodes on top of listening to them, which brings a new dimension, I would say. Right? The second dimension is the first dimension audio, and the second dimension is visual.
In podcasting, yes.
Yeah.
But like in not podcasting.
No.
What is 1D?
1D is a line. Yeah, that exists. That's a line.
It has depth but not height, or it has width
length
but not heights. Yeah, you're right.
It is length, and then second dimension is length and width. So that's like a piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
And third dimension has depth.
All right.
In fourth dimension?
There's a fourth spatial dimension and a first temporal dimension. So people sometimes talk about that as the fourth dimension. So we experience time as a line, right? Going forward.
So time is 1D.
Well, we experience time in 1D. Time could easily be more dimensions. We just wouldn't know.
All right. Well, don't want to go down this path anymore. You can also follow the podcast on Patreon at patreon.com/Cinereelists. If you enjoy what you hear on this podcast and you just want more of it, you should definitely become a Patreon supporter, because that's where we post extra after show audio episodes for our Patreon supporters, which are just kind of like fun mini 15-minute, 45-minute episodes where we shoot the breeze. Sometimes we have topics and sometimes we just wing it. It's a good time. Also, doesn't
it
just cost like $1 to get access to that?
I think it might be $3.
It's $3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Plus, if you do Patreon, you get all the Patreon content, so you can experience our podcast in the second temporal dimension. You can go forward and back.
No, still one-dimensional, still a line.
But you can go back on that line or forward on that line.
If it was 2D, it would be like alternative reality episodes from parallel timelines.
All right.
I think we should do that. Okay.
We should.
Let's
again. Redo episodes.
Yeah, and just take totally different takes on it.
Yeah. Slight variations of ourselves.
Like, my God, Room was insufferable.
we should try that. Try to remake an episode.
Well, we're gonna have to when we do favorite movie trailers.
That's true. Yep.
Was that the Scotty episode?
Yeah, that's a lost episode. Yeah.
The one lost episode. Yep. Okay.
We did one episode. We did one episode for fun. I think on April Fool's Day, when I just called James Zach and he called me James, and otherwise we didn't mention it or do anything different. We just referred to each other as the wrong
names.
We
released that.
Oh yeah, for sure. But it was so stupid.
Nobody ever mentioned it to us. We were like,
I don't think people realized we did that.
All right. Last thing on the housekeeping list is Apple Podcast reviews. If you're a listener on iOS and you use the Apple Podcasting app and you have not left us a review, definitely do that. We're trying to get to 200 so we can become certified Rotten Tomatoes reviewers. So Zach can juice that Robin Hood score, amongst other reasons. But
it's criminally low. 52% fresh. That's ridiculous. People like that movie.
Feels high to me, but
feels high to you.
Yeah. I mean, you're telling me more than half of the people that watch that movie love it. Come on.
No. That's not what fresh means. It means they think it's worth watching versus not worth watching.
Yeah, I mean, if you're to line up all the Disney films, I wouldn't put them in the top tier. I wouldn't put Robin Hood in the top tier. But
that's I
understand you do.
Not what it is. It's just, is it worth watching or not? Should you skip it? Should you watch it? That's all it is.
And you say you should watch it, and James says you should skip it, and there's your 52%.
I don't think James even says that.
I am not saying that, but I'm not saying it because I don't want to be mean.
You don't want the next 20 minutes of this podcast.
I'm not saying you should skip it. I'm just saying,
great,
if you put 100 movies in front of me, there's probably a lot of them that I would say to watch before Robin Hood, from like a significance. If these are the only 100 you can watch, then
you can mark 100 fresh, 100 not fresh, whatever you want. There's no quota.
No, I understand, but I'd still want to rank it for somebody, and it would be lower on the 100.
Sure.
I like Robin Hood, but it's not in my top 400. That's what I'm saying.
No, that's fine.
Like,
so you can give it a Metacritic score, and I don't think it's kind of rank it.
I don't think it's a particularly important film for somebody to watch.
The first Disney film after Disney died. The number one in the box office when it came out.
And you can really see the sorrow all over those characters. You could just the sadness they drew them, knowing that Walt had passed away, is palpable.
Those raccoons got sad.
It's basically like a Bambi remake anyway, right?
Oh, that is not true.
Wait, Zach, you mean the four raccoons that march in perfect lockstep?
Yeah.
They literally used the cells from Bambi and then reworked the story around.
Not Bambi.
They did not. Snow White. Jungle Book.
Jungle Book.
Aristocats.
All right. I stand corrected.
Know your facts. Do your research.
Point Bambi. Is, we need Apple Podcast reviews. So if you haven't left us one, do that. Let's jump in to a review for this week. It's a new Pixar movie that's available on Disney Plus right now. It's titled Luca. Here's a clip.
Mother of pearl. You live up here?
Yeah, me and my dad. He's not even here a whole lot, so I pretty much just do whatever I want.
Isn't it dangerous?
Yeah, it's the best. Everything good is above the surface.
Like, what else?
Air! Gravity, also known as falling! The sky, clouds, the sun. Whoa, don't look at it. Just kidding. Definitely look at it.
That was Luca, a Disney Pixar computer animated coming of age fantasy film directed by Enrico Casarasa.
Chiwetel Ejiofor.
Starring Jacob Tremblay, Jack Dylan Grazer, Emma Berman, Maya Rudolph, Jim Gaffigan, Marina Mascheroni, and Sandy Martin, amongst others. The official IMDb plot synopsis for Luca is: on the Italian Riviera, an unlikely but strong friendship grows between a human being and a sea monster disguised as a human. Pretty good synopsis.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that there's more to that friendship than just the human and the sea monster.
Sure, but I mean, they can't write a book about it. It's supposed to be a sentence.
No, I mean, there's another central friendship to that movie. It's not just that one friendship.
The friendship they're talking about is with the girl?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they totally leave out his friendship with the boy.
Alberto.
But there isn't another friendship with a boy. There's a friendship with another sea monster.
What?
Huh?
James, there's two friendships in this movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And
they left out one.
One's a sea monster and a girl, and one's a sea
Yeah.
monster and a sea monster.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean,
Right?
it's also fair to say that they are boy sea monsters.
Either they present as boys, but I don't know if they're actual boys, right? Well, I mean, when they're sea monsters and they're on the, they might be male sea monsters. Would you say they're boy sea monsters? Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I would say.
I mean,
Yes.
I guess
I'm planting my flag.
I don't technically know the sea monster term for a young male, but I think I'm safe to say boy. We can call him Joey, so that makes you feel better.
I'm fine with it. Okay, so Luca, Pixar movie.
The quibbliest of quibbles. Luca, yes.
Pixar movie. Kind of came out of nowhere for me. I hadn't watched the trailer, didn't know much about it until like maybe a few weeks ago when I was like, oh, there's a new Pixar movie coming out and I don't have to go to a movie theater. Great. And then it came out. I was like, cool, let's talk about it. And then I watched it. And then you guys watched it. Or maybe you watched it before me. I don't know. What did you guys think of Luca?
Thrilling play-by-play.
Kyle, what'd you think of Luca?
I enjoyed it.
What?
Okay. All right. So Pixar, they know how to animate, right? There is no question that when it comes to animation, they are top tier animators. And I mean, this movie looks great. I really liked what was the Italian villa that they were in? It was called
Porto Rosso.
Porto Rosso, right? That's right. Yeah. Similar to the Miyazaki film. So Porto Rosso looked great. The water effects looked awesome. Like you could definitely tell, like this is our water movie. How can we make water look cool and move in a very natural, animated way? It was all very bright. So Pixar can animate a movie, no question about that. But I have to compare this movie to Pixar canon, and I just feel like this one did not live up to what they could do. I wouldn't say it's like Down with Good Dinosaur, but it's definitely not a top tier Pixar movie. And for me, it was just because the story was so simple that it didn't really have the emotional resonance that I usually expect from a Pixar film. And that's something that I've noticed has kind of happened recently with Pixar. Like Zach, I know you really liked Onward a lot, and Onward did not work for me. And Soul worked a little bit better, but still wasn't able to get up to those heights that I expect from Pixar. And I kind of got that from Luca. I did really like that the friendship between the two boy sea monsters. Are we comfortable with that, James, calling them boy sea monsters?
You can call them whatever you want. I'm not.
Okay. I thought that friendship was great. And sort of just how they started as friends, and then you introduce this girl into the relationship, and it wasn't like a love triangle kind of thing. It was just more like these two boys thought they'd be hanging out together, and then there was a third friend, and kind of the jealousy that came with that. I thought that was really interesting, but I just wasn't. I never got beyond I'm enjoying this movie. It was kind of it sort of got to that moment and it plateaued for me.
Gotcha. James?
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. I thought there was some interesting technical things happening here.
Mm-hmm.
Like I definitely noted the water. I also thought there was like a really like painterly style to some of the 3D that I liked. It kind of looked cell shaded, like a cell shaded video game, but like somewhere between realistic and cell shaded. As it, like cell shaded literally looks like a cartoon in 3D type of thing. In like a 2D cartoon in a 3D space, whereas this kind of had a mix between the two, and the character designs were a little different too. Like they had a little bit of like an Aardman animation look to them. Like
I was thinking the same thing, right? It kind of had this Wallace and Gromit look to the characters.
Yeah, and some of the actual animation of the characters as well kind of felt more like stop motion animation techniques than they did really smooth 3D techniques, which I think if it wasn't a choice, then maybe it was just my brain playing tricks because they kind of look like Aardman characters. But it kind of felt like it had that vibe to it. And I like the story. I think it's a good story. It's well told. It's tight. Like, I didn't have any major problems with the story, but it's also kind of a safe, by the numbers, other quote unquote others story. And I don't know. I kind of feel like there's some things they could have done at the end that would have spun some things that would have made it more interesting than just kind of the inevitable happy conclusion that we got. I did appreciate that there was like no romantic element to it, that there were friendships between males and females, going all directions, and they never really felt the need to push limits in any direction with those. They were just kid friendships, and I liked that portrayal. And some of the adventure was kind of fun. The villainy guy in the movie was probably the most cartoony character, like as far as like from a straight character level. He was just kind of over the top, but it kind of worked for me. Kind of reminded me of like Gargamel, or just movies with normal people as the bad person. They don't know how insecurely evil they are, right?
We don't see many movie bullies anymore.
Right. Yeah.
It's a trope that's kind of gone away.
It was kind of a throwback to that. And with this one, they don't even really explain away the bulliness. Like, I feel like it's a trend where if you have a real life bully, or like somebody who could be a real life equivalent, then they give a couple caveats like, oh, like they didn't have his parents in there beating him, like his dad slapping him or something like that. And then you're like, oh, that's why he's acting that way. They didn't give you any of that, which kind of seems out of pace for recent Disney Pixar stuff. They tend to cover all bases when it comes to that kind of stuff. But it was fine, but nothing crazy. And unfortunately, Pixar conditioned us a long time ago to expect crazy. And so when we just get good, it feels like a letdown when it's really not. It's just, I've had a perfectly fine time watching this movie.
If I was to compare this to just kids animated films, it would definitely be on the higher end, but compared to Pixar, it's just kind of in the middle.
Right. How about you, Zach?
Okay, so I think I like this movie better than the two of you did, but I'll agree it's not like a Pixar masterpiece in the sense of this is, should win Best Picture, and it was something that elevated above the medium, and it's just this amazing cinematic work, whatever. Instead, what it was for me, 100% completely enjoyable movie watching experience. I found this movie to be extremely easy and fun to watch. So like, it didn't make me cry. It didn't make me think about greater themes and reevaluate my life or any of that, which Pixar has been able to do in the past. But it did give me a movie that I 100% enjoyed watching. And so that's awesome, because a lot of kids movies can be kind of tedious for an adult to watch, or at least have parts of it that are just so broad, and you just have to muddle through them. But this one I thought was just a lot of fun to watch. I really liked the two boys and their relationship. I thought they just had a genuine kind of just two kids relationship that had give and take, and it had excitement and eagerness, and there's pecking orders that was established and modified, and I didn't find either of them annoying at all. I really, really enjoyed the kind of dream sequences that they would have, because they had a limited understanding of what the surface world was like, and so they would have these imaginings based on how they understood the world. And it was so creative because they thought the stars were made of fish. And so when they would imagine floating among the stars, they were floating among fish. And so it was a dream rooted in their belief about the world. And as they learn more, the dreams would change. And I just found them super creative and fun and not obtrusive at all. I really liked where the plot went. You know, they had this kid goal of winning a Vespa, you know, and you know, they met the girl on the way, and I thought that she was a great character. I really enjoyed that character. I could watch that character's movie doing something else. If I had one thing that I didn't super enjoy, it was probably the parents, and maybe more specifically the mom was so one-dimensional and, you know, kind of the like annoying character because they hit one note and hit it over and over again. The dad was kind of goofy, maybe because of the way he was drawn. He was just fun to look at. But yeah, maybe the mom was my only part that, you know, I thought could have used a little bit more thought. But I had a great time watching this one. I thought it was super easy going to, you know, it went down easy. And yeah, so I thought it was great.
So I don't disagree with you whatsoever. Like I have no qualms to pick with your review. I think you summed up that movie perfectly. But like James said, Pixar has primed me to expect more than completely pleasant and enjoyable.
Yeah. And maybe that's, I don't know. That's why it's hard to criticize. Like everything that I've said about the movie at its surface is like not a criticism.
Yeah.
They're all positives. You know what I mean? Like I think Zach's articulation of it comes from somebody who probably has a more realistic perspective on the movie itself. You know what I mean? Because I think if you were to watch it in a vacuum, you would have exactly the experience Zach just described, right? And if you were to take what Kyle and I just said about the movie and remove all the Pixar baggage from it, it would be a very similar sentiment to what Zach just said, which is that it was fun, it was good, it was watchable, interesting, you know, animation, few quibbles maybe here or there, but for the most part, totally enjoyable time. Certainly we don't expect every filmmaker to hit one out of the park. Even if like I'm a fan of the A24 studios, they definitely don't hit everyone out of the park. I don't know why we expect it from Pixar. Probably because they had like out of 10 movies, like 7 of them were like stone cold classics. And that is kind of an impossible batting average to maintain for the career of a movie studio. And so
they had like a 15-year run where it wasn't perfect, but you can go from 95 to 2015, 20 years, and you can find classics from that entire run.
Right. And not only that, but they were the first to do it, right? In a real way. Like if the first studio to make a fully rendered 3D animated movie had been not so focused on story and had just applied 3D animation to, I don't know, Shark Tale or something like that. Like if that was the movie that came out first that was fully 3D animated, it's possible that the medium would have gotten a slower start than it did. And I think Pixar from day one through a couple of their early successes took something that could have just been the transition of 2D animation to 3D animation for kids movies, and instead gave it like a creative cachet that just wasn't there when the transition started. Like 3D animated stuff in my mind pre-Pixar was relegated to special effects movies like Terminator 2 and stuff like that, or like really bad California Raisins commercials, and you know what I mean? Like it never looked good, right?
Are
never
you knocking
good.
the California Raisins?
I liked the California Raisins.
Their Christmas special was great.
I'm just saying that they legitimized it both as like a visual art form, but also applied good stories to it, and that made 3D feel like a bigger thing than even 2D at the time. And I think it helped strengthen the idea that when you go to see a Pixar movie, not only are you going to see something that's interesting visually, but you're also going to get something story-wise that you couldn't get anywhere else. And while Luca probably has touches that you wouldn't get in a DreamWorks film. You might get different touches, like DreamWorks style touches that some people like and some people don't. But with Luca, you get a very typical story with just enough Pixar touches to be like, oh, I know it's a Pixar movie, but not the level of touches where you're like, this can only be a Pixar movie. And that's the criticism of it, which is high marks, I think, even though it doesn't sound like it. I don't know.
No, I think, James, you and we grade Pixar on a curve.
Yeah.
And so we're applying the Pixar curve to this movie Luca, and where does it land on that curve? And it's not going to be up there with Toy Story, WALL-E, Finding Nemo, things like that.
But I think Zach does that too. You take into account like what the studio's done.
I totally do. And yeah, here's what this movie was missing, to give James credit. It didn't have the first 10 minutes of Up. It didn't have the first half an hour of WALL-E. You know what I mean? But I would say this movie, I think, is slightly better than the second half of WALL-E, and I think it's better than the second half of Up. Do you know what I mean? So like, I
would agree.
It's just missing
as a whole. It's better than the worst parts of those movies for sure.
Yeah. And so I think what they've hit is just a very consistent, like, let's tell a simple story well.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not going for a home run necessarily, but we're going for a solid triple. We're gonna, set up some runs later in the inning. You know what I mean? Like it's not it's not trying to be the best Pixar movie ever made, but it is absolutely a something you could be proud of making.
Yeah,
I agree.
I did find it slow to start. And I would say that the underwater stuff was not interesting.
Oh, you didn't find that interesting?
No. It was very Little Mermaid-ish. I was half expecting him to like break out into part of your world when he's going through all like the doodads. But thankfully, they got on the surface very quickly.
Yeah.
And they didn't even like bother explaining why they transform once they go on the surface. It just happens.
Well, I don't think there is a why. It just happens.
Well, right, but that's fine. Like, it doesn't need a why. It's just when we're underwater, we look like this. We're on the surface, we look like that.
Yeah.
Move on. And
I enjoyed the
I appreciate
mechanic.
that. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, because they used it like cleverly for comedic at times, and they also used it for dramatic purposes. So I appreciated the simplicity of the transformation, that it was not some drawn out process.
There were also some good, very tertiary characters like the grandma. That was a fun character to just kind of pop in and out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just this worldly wise grandma who like is rooting for the kids,
I kind of wish at the end they had done more reveals, like, of townsfolk.
Oh, like more of them were sea monsters?
Yeah. I think that would have been interesting if there was like a good 50% of them were just pretenders, and like nobody had broken the seal, right? And these kids had finally broken the seal that like this, we don't have to be afraid of each other, and we're just living, breathing things.
Mm-hmm.
We're just of a different species type of
At
thing.
least there were some.
You're
I also thought it might be interesting too if there was some kind of like, I don't know, this is stupid, but if there was some kind of like spell, I'm not a story person, but if there was some kind of like spell element or something like that, and then like you realize that the humans could also go into the water and do that. You know what I mean? Like the people on land had a spell on them. That's why they couldn't go back and forth between the two existences or something like that. I don't know. I just felt like there was something there at the end that would have been more surprising than what we got. I don't know if it would be better. The things I just described, I don't even think are better. I just feel like there could have been more there at the end. But
it's really great storytelling when you introduce a witch in the third act.
That's what I'm saying.
By the way,
it's not a good idea. I'm just saying. And they probably went through all those iterations and decided it was stupid. So,
I mean, this movie has the issue where it has parallels to Little Mermaid. So I'm sure they tried to like avoid as much Little Mermaid-isms as they could.
Yeah. And and Little Mermaid is so concentrated on the romance and is so concentrated on the sabotage element. And so this one sidestepped it that way while keeping obviously that main connection of, you know, going to the outside world.
I did like the Italian seaside setting. I thought that was cool. It's definitely like an idyllic version of that.
Like a nostalgic kind of.
Yeah. When was this set?
I was wondering,
say?
I was going to ask the same thing.
I mean, I never questioned it while I was watching it, but it probably wasn't modern because I don't remember anybody having a cell phone or, you know what I mean? There was like nothing like that in it.
I would imagine this is set in the 60s.
In the 60s?
Well, so there were some movie posters up.
La Strada.
And that came out, is that late 50s?
I don't remember. La Strada came out in 1954.
Okay. And
so maybe
wasn't
the 50s.
Wasn't there a second movie poster up also? Or was it just La Strada?
There were a lot of little Easter eggs like that.
Yeah. So it, like, for me, this kind of felt late 60s, early 70s.
Okay.
Just in the aesthetic, the Vespa, the bicycles. But you could also tell me that this was set in 2020, and I would totally be fine with that too. Like, it didn't need to have a period setting.
Sure.
Except for my list, so we have to decide right now when it took place.
I kind of think it was late 50s, mid to late 50s.
So you think like La Strada was in the multiplex? That was the big movie of the time.
That sounds right to me because it feels like a movie like La Strada, you know?
I don't know. I've never seen La Strada.
Okay. It feels like very much of that world.
Okay.
And let's look when Vestas were invented.
Because this movie did not feel like Italian neoclassical realism at all to me, which I appreciated.
Yeah, Vespas are from 46. I think this could very easily be in the 50s.
Okay.
Cool. Anything else for Luca? Did we cover it all? I think maybe we covered it all.
Yeah. Do you think that this movie would have gone better if it was a theater movie or worse?
Like a theater movie now or a theater movie if the pandemic never happened?
If the pandemic never happened.
Oh, I think it was
be forgotten faster because it wasn't a theater movie.
I think so, but the advantage of it being on Disney Plus and not behind a paywall is kids can access it whenever they want. So honestly, it may have more staying power than we think.
I don't know how anybody in movie marketing these days cracks the popular culture at this point. Like, I think if Iron Man came out today, I think it would be ignored.
Oh, really?
The reason why people don't ignore Marvel movies is because it has 12 years of steam. And we'll see when Black Widow comes out. Like, there's a very good chance Black Widow will come out and go by and nobody will care.
Interesting.
You know what I mean? It'll set a post-pandemic record at the box office, but it will not be a cultural touchstone. I don't know when we'll get another movie that's like a cultural touchstone.
I think In the Heights is kind of having that same fate right now, where it was supposed to be this big, the big musical, the next Lin-Manuel Miranda, and it's underperformed at the box office. And I don't know if people are going to really talk about In the Heights much beyond the next couple months.
Right?
Yeah. And I don't love that movie, so I don't care. But
but it was set up to be like the movie to bring us back, the first big movie of the summer.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. And maybe we'll get there. I would hate to be in movie marketing right now because I don't think there's much you can do to really get popular momentum on your side at this point. I mean, because there's just so many people. You remember when the Aurora shooting happened, when Dark Knight Rises came out? And there were people that said, I'm not going to a movie theater ever again. And I think there's even more people who are thinking that right now. They're not even thinking it. They just don't think about movie theaters. You know what I mean? And to get them to think about going to a movie theater again is just going to take a lot of time, much less get them going to one on a regular basis. They can't even get me to do it. Right?
Yeah.
Maybe once we get steady releases of things I'm interested in, but I mean, as of right now, I can think of like maybe like 2 or 3 movies in the next 5 months that I'd be like, okay, that's worth going to the theater for. Whereas every weekend, whether it was worth going to see or not, I used to see a movie in a movie theater. That's not a good sign for them, for the theater industry. Go ahead, Kyle.
I'm going to kind of do a preview. We're going to discuss this on Patreon, but I was looking at that list of movies, like the release schedule for the rest of the year. And right between now and October, there's like 4 that I'm interested in. And then October it picks up a little bit, but like it's not like past summers, right? Every single weekend, there's something I wanted to see. And this summer, I'm like, I can wait. Nothing's really jumping out at me.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, how long do you think it'll be? Prediction time. How long do you think it'll be until we get a new franchise that's huge? So there's not already a movie out.
You mean like no Mission Impossible 6? Like you want something brand new,
like a Mission Impossible 1,
or like a new Harry Potter,
like a new Harry Potter.
I don't know, because I don't know what that franchise would be.
Yeah,
like, I don't know what
I can't think what has been in mind. I think there's this big issue now where streaming is becoming king. So you have less and less of studios trying to, or you have this push pull between studios and their streaming counterpoints, where like, you know, if you're a filmmaker, you want to get that movie out in theaters, people to pay, people to see it. And if you're the studio, you're like, I just want to dump it on my streaming service so I can get another $14.99 a month from these people.
Yeah.
And I think that could possibly kill franchises too, because if it's on a streaming service instead of being in the theater, only a limited audience can see it. And it may not pick up that cultural momentum that we expect from a Marvel franchise or Harry Potter.
Yeah. At the same time, though, if the Marvel universe had started on streaming, right? If there was not a series of movies that led into these Disney Plus shows, these Marvel Disney Plus shows, then these Marvel Disney Plus shows would not cut it. People would not be watching them the way they're watching them if they were just like, oh, we're making Marvel shows and there was no cinematic universe to give you all that context to lead into these shows, right? And let's be honest, they would look like the DC CW shows if they didn't have a standard to be compared to, which are the theatrical movies, because that's the budget that you make TV shows on. You don't make TV shows on the budget that they're currently making them on Disney
they
Plus.
Couldn't start it at that budget. They would start it as a CW budget.
Right. Exactly. So they're in a weird place right now where they're capitalizing on IPs that come from the film world, that gain their popularity in the film world, and they're trying to translate that popularity to long form television shows, and they've done a decent job on Disney Plus with that for sure. But how do you start a show brand new and spend 80 million on its first season? You don't. You know what I mean? You just don't, unless it's already proven on a level like Marvel or Star Wars has.
Game of Thrones kind of pulled that off.
They did. It was a roll.
They weren't
of the
going
dice.
80 million right away, but they definitely were going high budget.
I think the first one was like, it was pretty high. I'm going to look it up because I don't want to misspeak.
Have you ever seen a franchise destroy itself so quickly?
Like Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
Yeah. It really, all the deposits it had taken from people, it cashed in so quickly and just like
if the last season went well, there would be so many popular spin-off TV shows, movies, everything. And now like no one talks about Game of Thrones at all.
I just unfollow Game of Thrones on Instagram because I realized I was still like they tweeted or they posted something. I'm like, I'm still following this. But all the comments were just, when are you making season 8? When are you making season 8? Like no
Honestly,
one cares. Yeah, that's all I want to know is when are we getting a redo on this?
HBO should absolutely, with the exact same budget, redo season 8.
They should Snyder cut it.
Absolutely, they should Snyder cut it. People would be so on board and do it all fan service.
I don't like that precedent. I don't like this precedent that fans get to demand, oh, do it again. We want it better. Like, you cannot like something, and that's fine. And someone can fail at creating something, and that's fine. Like there shouldn't be fan redos, or we're gonna bring someone new in to do it all over again. It's just, I think it's got to exist as it is, and if you don't like it or they bungled it, tough cookies.
But why tough cookies? Why not say like, okay, that exists, it'll always exist, and now let's give something that won't give people a bad taste in their mouth? Well,
okay, one, I think I don't want to give fans more entitlements than they already have. Like, it's this belief that I'm owed something great. And if
what
I
are we
don't
doing
get it,
this for if not fan? Like fans are not the bad guy. Like, people that like something, like,
but
that's what you're doing this for.
I think fans have made themselves the bad guys where they're not happy with anything. Right? Like, you got these ultra fans because they're the ones calling for it.
No, hold on.
Okay.
Do you think the people that are not happy with Game of Thrones season 8 are these like cynical ultra fans, and that the average moviegoer should see season 8 as like a success?
No, I'm not saying that we should see season 8 as a success. I agree. Season 8 is a failure. Move on.
But wouldn't it be fun to just like reimagine season 8 and just, it's like we get a new thing that's like gets people excited about Game of Thrones again?
But you're banking on the fact that they're going to do it right the second time. And they could just give you another crappy season 8. And
That's
then
true.
like, what was the point? Now we got 2 crappy versions of the same thing.
Yeah. If it's that, I will give you that would be worse. But what if it's not that? What if it is pretty awesome? Let's assume that. Would that be good or still bad for you?
I mean, no, because again, now you're saying this precedent that fans are like, I want something new. Oh, this was good. Okay, I want everything new now. Like, HBO said that about Suicide Squad. Like, after Snyder Cut came out, I'm not sure. Some executive at HBO was like, we are happy to work with Zack Snyder to give him the Snyder Cut. We're not doing any more of this. Like right away, they said, this is not a precedent. We're not going to start redoing all our movies. This is a one-off thing.
Reboots and like are already very much a mainstream part of movie culture. I would be super happy if they decided, like, you know what? We don't like where Jurassic World's going. We're going to restart Jurassic World and make it more like Jurassic Park. I'd be totally on board for that. You know?
Okay, but that's different. I mean, a reboot's one thing. What if someone's like, we're going to take Jurassic World, what we have existing, and we're going to recut it and add these new scenes in to give you a new Jurassic World, which is still Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard. It's the same movie. We've just Frankensteined it.
I do not think they should recut season 8. I think they should just reshoot it from the ground up, rewrite it, completely different plot, same actors, but just totally new production.
There is no way they're getting the same actors.
Pay him enough. I just think it'd be so much fun. And here's the thing: Game of Thrones is burned to the ground, and this would be the only way to resurrect it.
Yeah, that's not true. They're absolutely still doing the spinoffs. You're just forgetting that HBO takes forever to do anything. So
yeah, no, there are several spinoffs for sure.
I think we can also blame George R.R. Martin for the fact
dragging
that no
his
book
heels.
has come out in a decade or something like that. Like, people have just stopped caring about Game of Thrones.
He had a whole pandemic to do it.
Yeah, I remember I read the books and I was really excited for that next one. And this was back in 2013. I was like, all right, 1 or 2 more years, and then it kept being 1 or 2 more years. And now at this point, if that next book comes out, I'll read it, but I'll probably need to read like a Wikipedia summary of everything beforehand just to get myself back in the mindset.
Yeah.
So it's not like there's new. I mean, Game of Thrones, they were trying to do their best with what they got. I don't know. Move on.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, my hot takes.
George R.R. Martin's making video games and stuff like that.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Did
like
he just get bored?
At E3 this year, they released a video game that has his name all over it. Not a Game of Thrones video game, like some other.
You play him, like you write a
series.
book and
you play
go on
him.
interviews.
That's what it is. So the first season of Game of Thrones has an estimated $50 to $60 million budget, which for 8 hours of TV is a lot of money.
Great. Yeah.
But not the same as a 2-hour movie.
What did season 8 have?
Say that again.
How much budget did season 8 have?
At least 100.
No, I think they kept generally. It says the series received roughly a 15% budget increase every season, but they produced less episodes in the last season. So I'm guessing that it was more per episode budget.
There was one season where they had 10 episodes and the budget was 100 million. And I mean, they're basically saying it's 10 million episodes what we're spending.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which season that was exactly, but
yeah. The honest truth about Game of Thrones for me is that the people that bitch about the ending, I didn't have a problem with the ending of Game of Thrones.
Oh, you didn't mind the ending?
I mean, I had problems with how fast they got to the ending because it was very obvious that they only had 6 episodes. They had probably 12 episodes worth of loose ends to tie up. And so they just like sped by the things that they considered lesser and then spent a lot more time on the Daenerys stuff and stuff like that. But what those characters actually did that made a lot of people angry, to me, makes sense in a series where they chop off the head of the main character in episode 7. You know what I mean? They make you fall in love with Ned Stark, and then they chop his head off in episode 7. And then you're like, where is this series going? And then a couple seasons later, they literally murder an entire room full of people that you love in front of you. And then in the final episode or 2, Daenerys doesn't do what you think she's going to do. Or what you want her to do. She does what she's going to do, which she's done the entire series. So yes, to me it made sense. It didn't make me feel great because I'd love to have the feminist, ideal or whatever people attached to that character that was never really a part of her. And instead they got a murderous crazy woman who was very power hungry. That's what she was the entire series. Sorry, get over it.
Like when she was murdering slavers, you were fine with it.
Right. Exactly. It totally made sense to me. Doesn't feel good. I agree. It'd be great if she had chosen the, righteous path and, married the guy who's in love with the normal human that's in love with her. But that's not Game of Thrones. Like, what show are we all watching here?
Well, James, I think, can we agree that the show we were watching does not pick the winner of the Game of Thrones that it did? Like, think of who won the Game of Thrones. Who was king at the end? That's silly.
I don't know. We probably already dipped too far into Game of Thrones spoilers, but
you laid out every major spoiler there was.
I only put one character name to it.
Oh, you forgot to mention that Joffrey dies.
That's pretty early.
No, this is my final word on Game of Thrones season 8, because who cares? And then we can move on. It was season 8 was all just like, let's get A, B, C, D without the journey. It was just things happen and there's nothing connecting point A to point B. And
it was too fast.
Right, it felt rushed. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I 100% agree with those criticisms. I don't agree with the character criticisms that I've heard that are like, people are acting out of character, or this person wouldn't do that, or that person wouldn't do that, when I'm like, I didn't see anything where I was like, that's completely out of character. But anyway, I don't know how we got on this.
I blame Zach.
Luca, star ratings?
Oh my goodness, we haven't done this yet.
I give it 4 stars.
3.5.
3.5 for me as well. So 2 3.5s and a 4 for Luca. We did this a few months ago where we couldn't quite come to a consensus on a list. So we decided, instead of trying to force a consensus, we're just going to each make up our own list in relation to the film that we watched, maybe, at least mine is. I don't know about y'all's, but I'm assuming it's related to the movie.
Mine's North Dakota movies.
And we would just bring our own list to the podcast and just kind of surprise the others with what we came up with. So we each have our own individual list. Instead of going round robin, typical round robin style, we're going to kind of go one person running down their list and then on to the next person. And yeah, we'll just have a good time talking about related Luca topics in top 10 list form. Why don't I go first?
Okay.
My list is the top 10 child acting performances of all time.
Wow. That's a big list.
Because
All time.
Luca has a I know I probably shouldn't have burned this one. Luca has a child voice acting performance from Jacob Tremblay. And so I was like, oh, I wonder, not that he was amazing in Luca or anything. It's not like Luca's on my top 10 best child acting performances of all time. But he is a child actor and he has been in good movies and he's acted well in them. So this is my list. My number 10 is Tatum O'Neal as Addie in Paper Moon.
Yes.
Great
choice.
Pick. Great pick.
She's really good in it, from 1973, starring opposite her father. And I think she got an Oscar nomination for it at the time. Did she win? She the youngest winner?
She won, yeah.
Yeah. I think she might be the youngest winner still, even though there's been younger nominees at this point. My number 9 is Brooklyn Prince as Mooney from The Florida Project.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
The little girl from The Florida Project. Super good. I can't tell with her whether she's just a great actress or if Sean Baker just really knew how to direct her. You know what I mean? Like fostered an environment where she could be herself and it came off well. Can't really tell. But regardless, it worked for me for sure. My number 8, Linda Blair as Reagan in The Exorcist from 1973. So that's a movie that like you probably shouldn't have a kid in, like just the movie in general. I heard that when they filmed it, like they filmed certain scenes, even the ones that Linda Blair was in, they would film one side that they wouldn't let her see. And then they would have her do her performance. And then it wasn't until it was cut together that she saw like, visuals that they didn't want a kid to see, even if it was a kid on set. But regardless, there's stuff that they had Linda Blair doing that you would not ask of a child typically. That movie definitely had her stretching and it's effective. Scary movie, super twisted and weird and scary. So my number 8, my number 7, Will Wheaton, River Phoenix, Corey Feldman, and Jerry O'Connell in Stand By Me. So more than one person. I cheated on this one, but I feel like that entire cast in Stand By Me, like more than most films, The Goonies can do this for me, but I think the emotional weight of Stand By Me is a little higher than a Goonies. But those 4 kids, they all have their own individual personalities, yet you can imagine them as friends, and they have like friendships that are rooted in teasing each other. They're just as comfortable teasing each other as they are throwing their arms around each other, as they are getting angry at each other. And like you get the full range of friendship emotions throughout that movie, and they're all really young, and they all went on to bigger careers in one way, shape, or form. And I think that's a testament to their performance in Stand By Me. My number 6, Royalty Hightower as Tony in The Fits from 2015.
Nice.
So
Great pick.
good. So good.
Really good.
Like typical young actress performance, right? Is not like tomboyish boxer who wants to be on the dance squad. You know what I mean? Like it's a strange ask of a young person to act in that way. And the movie is really subtle and she's subtle in it. And yet there's a power to her that I think the movie gives her, and also just her performance. And it doesn't feel like the type of performance where you can fake it. Like, I don't know how old Royalty Hightower was when they filmed that movie, but I feel like there were intentional decisions being made in that performance, and I bought it for sure. My number 5, Christian Bale as Jim in Empire of the Sun. Great Steven Spielberg movie. Christian Bale's super young in it, and he goes on an adventure, and war-torn world, and he's just super good in it. And you can, if you watch it today, you've never seen it, even if you haven't seen it in a while, you watch it today, you're like, that is absolutely what I imagine Christian Bale would be, just younger. Like, his intensity existed in that movie. It's just like a youthful intensity, not like a Batman intensity. Number 4, Haley Joel Osment as Cole in The Sixth Sense. Love this movie. I'm not sure whether Haley Joel Osment is particularly a great actor, but he's perfect for this role because he just kind of has to be dumbfounded and a little cute, right? Like little kid cute. Like there's an innocence to him where he's just kind of an observer in this world that's happening around him, and also be frightened at times and other things. So there's a range of emotions. I think the movie probably works better than actually his performance, like isolated, but the combination of the two makes it my number 4. My number 3, Natalie Portman as Matilda in Leon the Professional. Super good. I know there's some controversy around this movie as far as like some of the story plots and the, adult child relationship that's depicted in it and hinted at in the movie. And I've heard Natalie Portman say like she kind of wishes she hadn't done it, things like that, like that it sexualized her early to a male audience. And I've never watched it in that way. I don't think, like, not consciously anyway. Not that Natalie Portman isn't an attractive person, but I just never.
Well, she's
never really thought of that.
She's like 12 in that movie, so
that's what I'm saying. Like, even as an adult, when I go to see Natalie Portman movies, I don't go because I think Natalie Portman's attractive. I go because Natalie Portman's a good actress, right? And so that's the way I look at Leon the Professional, I guess is what I'm saying. But I'm not saying that's not true, that she wasn't sexualized early because of that, because obviously if she feels it, she's probably had some effect as far as that direction goes. So, but I do think it's a good movie, and I think she's great in it. And at that age, I mean, if you look at photos of me at the age that she was in that movie, and I think most people would just be intensely awkward in real life, much less on camera. And yet she holds her own against Jean Reno, who is also good in the movie. My number 2, Peter Kotlar as Joska in The Painted Bird from 2019, which is, you're shaking your heads like you don't know what this is, or
I've never heard of this.
You've heard of it. I've talked about it, but I'll talk about it again. It's a Jewish kid in a black and white movie from 2019. This kid it's a kind of a road movie where I forget where it's set exactly, and I don't want to get this wrong. So I'm going to do a little clicky here, and it takes place in an unidentified area of war-torn Eastern Europe. So I was going to name a place, and evidently they never named the place. So this kid is in the middle of a war that looks oddly similar to World War II. And he's a Jewish kid, and he's making his way through war-torn Eastern Europe where Jewish kids who don't have parents or anybody to watch over them are mistreated by adults. And so he kind of goes from one adult to another. They all kind of exploit him in different ways and mistreat him, and some of them in gross ways, some of them in violent ways. And it's a rough movie because it's just a kid getting the crap kicked out of him for like 2 hours. In fact, I think it's even longer than that. I think it's a long movie on top of all that. It's 175 minutes. So nearly 3 hours of this kid struggling through life at the hands of adults who are just absolutely heartless, basically. And I can't imagine how you get a kid to film this and they're not like damaged on the other end. I think most adults would be like, have to get themselves in a very specific headspace to go through what this kid goes through the movie. And his performance, along with the presentation, the Tarkovsky-esque presentation, is just like a great combination. A movie that I can't imagine watching again anytime soon because it was a brutal experience to watch, but super well made and well acted. My number one favorite child acting performance of all time, Jacob Tremblay in The Room. Enough said. He's super good in that. And he was good in Luca, but he's really good in Room as the boy. Well, I think his name is Jack in The Room, but opposite Brie Larson.
Wait, is he in The Room?
No, Room.
He's the kid.
James keeps saying The Room.
He's the kid in The Room.
I
He's
know.
in The Room.
Oh, the kid in The Room. Okay.
The room
In
where it
Room.
happens.
He's the kid in The Room in
Oh, he's in
Room.
Hamilton?
No, he's not in Hamilton. Yeah, my number one. Who's next?
James, have you seen Come and See?
I have not, but I've heard it's very painted bird-like.
What you were describing Painted Bird, and I was
Yeah.
getting Come and See flashbacks.
Oh, for
Yeah, I
sure.
read some reviews around the time that I watched it, and most of them were like, it's not necessarily a better version, but like a new version of Come and See. Not that it's a direct remake, but that it's stylistically similar.
Mm-hmm. I'll go next.
Go for it.
So Luca's a friendship movie, so I thought I just ranked my top 10 friends. So we'll see where James is at list on. No. I am ranking, these are my top 10 favorite movie friendships. So not necessarily movies about friendships. They could be, but these are just friends in movies and kind of where they fall for me. So my number 10 are Lloyd and Harry from Dumb and Dumber, Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels. They are two guys who are incredibly annoying to everyone else in the world, but for some reason they get along swimmingly well together. Their annoyingness just works with each other. And they go on a fun journey throughout, I don't know, the Colorado to return a briefcase. It's a very silly movie, but you really feel a genuine friendship between Lloyd and Harry in Dumb and Dumber. My number 9 is Joe Buck and Ratso from Midnight Cowboy.
Oh, cool.
Now, yeah. So Midnight Cowboy is a top 100 movie for me. I've only seen it once, but I was really enamored by their friendship in this movie. John Voight playing Joe Buck, he plays a gigolo, basically, who's in New York City, sleeping with older women for money to try and make it, right? To try and get a living going. And then Dustin Hoffman plays Ratso, who's sort of this kind of rat-looking hustler. And these two form a unlikely friendship trying to survive in New York City together. And their friendship has a very bittersweet ending at the end of this movie. But it always stood out to me as one of those great cinema friendships. My number 8, how can I not leave off Brian O'Connor and Dominic Toretto from the Fast and Furious franchise. The highs and lows that these two have been through together throughout Fast and Furious. They had their Point Break moments. They became enemies. Brian marries Dom's sister, becomes brother-in-law, become best friends again, partners in crime. Somehow he's still alive in the series, even though unfortunately Paul Walker's dead. It's up there with John Voight and Dustin Hoffman and Midnight Cowboy is one of the great cinema friendships. I hear crickets from you too.
No, I agree. They're a classic combo.
Classic
Absolute
combo.
Classic.
Yep. I mean, Dom was even okay with letting Brian go to live his life.
Were they friends or family?
They started as friends and they became family.
Was that a Vin Diesel impression?
Yeah, it's a family. I got really low and croaky.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. My number, I lost track of what number I was on. Number 7, From Aladdin and Abu.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, man,
Is that
monkey.
a friendship? That's
They
like
are-
it's an owner-animal relationship. It's not a friend relationship.
No, they're definitely friends. They're sharing food together. They're
friends
working
like
together.
me and my dog are friends.
No, I think Aladdin and Abu even have a little dialogue. They're friends. They're a step above.
They
Oh,
are
Me and my
friends,
dog
but-
have dialogue too. All right.
No, Kyle,
Aladdin
they
does
are
not-
friends, but Aladdin has never had a friend like the genie.
Right.
Yeah, I really consider the genie, but I really think that Aladdin and Abu is the central friendship of that movie.
Oh, you do?
Oh yeah, definitely.
There's a song about friendship in that movie.
No,
that has
no,
nothing to do with Abu.
Yeah, no. Genie's like you
Abu
never had
the
a
elephant.
yeah, but Genie's like you never had a friend like me, and Aladdin's like, okay, Genie, go do my bidding. It's not till the very end that Aladdin recognizes the genie as a friend and as an actual person. But throughout the whole movie, he recognizes Abu as his own person, his own monkey person. My number 7 is from Big. This is Josh and Billy. Josh played by Tom Hanks and Billy played by Jared Rushton. And in Big, Tom Hanks as I should say, Josh, the character, as a preteen, wishes he's big. He becomes big, and as Tom Hanks, and immediately freaks out his best friend Billy. But they've got this silly little rap that they like say to each other, and that's how Billy knows that it's actually Josh in Tom Hanks' body. And then they have fun with one of them being an adult, or at least passing as an adult, and one being a kid. And who doesn't want to be an adult when they're a kid? Or more, who doesn't want a best friend who looks like an adult, who's still a kid? So Zach, if like in middle school, you also need to turn into an adult, I think that would have been awesome.
How would you, in middle school, how would you have known it was me? What could I have said to you?
You would have said to me, Linguini Kenyatta.
Yeah, I could have said that.
And then I would have been like, it's Zach.
Yeah.
Or Shaubin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Move
You
on.
were using Shaubin in middle school?
That's when I came up with it.
Yeah. He was jealous. Number 5. Harold and Kumar from Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle. 2 stoner friends who just want White Castle, who go on an epic journey together, but still maintain their friendship throughout and go on some fun adventures. And who doesn't want to be Harold and Kumar in their 20s just hanging out?
Would you rather be Harold friends with Kumar or Kumar friends with Harold?
I would rather be Kumar just because I think Kumar is the harder friend to have. Like Harold's definitely the straight man of that friendship.
I'd rather be Harold.
You'd rather be the straight man?
I want to be Harold, not generic straight man, but yeah.
But I'm saying you want to be Harold, the straight man of the relationship.
Well, of Harold and Kumar, I would want to be Harold.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good because I'm Kumar, so our friendship works.
James, you're White Castle.
No, James
Of
is.
course I am.
He's either Neil Patrick Harris or Christopher Maloney. You can choose.
Neil Patrick Harris.
I'd rather be White Castle.
Number 4 is Marty McFly and Doc Brown from Back to the Future.
There you go.
We don't know why they're friends. Why is a high schooler hanging out with his eccentric inventor neighbor and is middle-aged? We're not sure, but that doesn't matter. Because of that friendship, we get the Back to the Future series. And again, I think it would be awesome to have a eccentric inventor friend to hang out with a cool dog.
All right.
Apparently, the backstory of why they're friends is Marty snuck into his lab one day.
That's it?
And yeah.
And then Doc caught him and is like, you're my assistant now?
Yeah.
I mean, I could see Doc being kind of easygoing about that.
Where did this backstory come from?
Yeah, is this canon?
This was from an interview with Bob Gale, co-writer and producer of the trilogy.
Okay.
All
So,
right,
like,
I
maybe
guess I'll
some
trust-
He heard Doc was dangerous, so being a normal American teenage boy, he snuck in to see what he was up to.
I want to know if this explanation was invented after the movies or if, like, before they made the movies, they actually had this kind of like thought out and they, it didn't make it into the movie, but they had actually thought it through. Just curious if it was an afterthought.
It sounds like it could have been a pre-thought. Like they could have maybe an early draft, an early outline. It's like, why are these two friends? Yeah.
Yep.
In the late 90s, there was a rumor going around of a prequel being made called Back to the Beginning that involves the young Marty becoming friends with Doc. But Bob Gale denies it.
So that movie would only work if present-day Marty McFly goes back in time to witness him becoming friends with Doc Brown. Like, I just don't want just like a straight movie of no time travel of Doc Brown meeting Marty McFly.
Right.
Why would he need to witness himself doing something he already knows he did?
It would be something like, I don't know. It would be something like the whole, why does he have to go back in time to save his parents kind of thing.
Right, but in Back to the Future, he always goes back in time to a time that he didn't exist. Unless he's watching himself in a time in which he didn't exist. You know what I mean? Like he never goes back to change something he did.
He goes back. He goes forward in the future.
Sure.
To change the future, which is kind of silly, but
yeah. But he never goes back in the past to change something that he personally did.
No, he kind of does that in the second one. He goes back in the past a second time
to influence himself.
Yeah. Well, yes and no. It's more he's trying to he's trying to get the almanac back from Biff, who took it back to the past already. Mm-hmm. So he's definitely interacting with himself or trying to avoid himself at that point.
Mm-hmm. He's trying not to interrupt himself from doing what was done.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Either way, great movie friendship. Number 3, one of my favorite movie friendships, Elliot and E.T. from E.T.
Yeah, there you go.
They form an instant bond. Elliot's kind of this, he's the middle child, doesn't quite know where he fits in the family. He finds E.T. And their friendship is so strong that their actual life force is connected to each other. That if one gets sick and dies, the other one starts to go too. And I can't think of a stronger friendship bond than that.
I get why Elliot is into E.T. Why does E.T. care about Elliot?
Yeah, so E.T.'s also a kid.
It's kind of a lot of one-sided conversations.
Yeah. Oh yeah. E.T.'s a kid.
E.T.'s a kid.
Yeah. So he gets left behind. Like he's kind of this curious kid who. So his parents land their ship on Earth, and E.T.'s out. I'm trying to think back to this. Like E.T. he leaves the ship, and I think he's like getting chased by dogs or something like that. And his parents go back to the ship and take off, and they leave E.T. behind. So you can imagine that E.T. is the alien counterpoint to Elliot. Like they're both kids finding each other.
According to the internet, according to the novel, E.T. is 10 million years old.
Yes, but I'm saying he's still a kid in his species. He's still looking for his parents. Also, I don't know if the novel is the same as the screenplay.
Sure. Interesting, but okay.
Does that answer your question? Why does E.T. care about Elliot?
Yeah.
Your kid, you're alone. You need to find someone safe to be around.
So what in the movie shows that he's like a child alien?
So it's at the end, you see him get on the ship and his parents are on the ship and they are bigger than he is. So it's more of a size thing.
How do you know those are his parents?
I don't... Zach, I'm crying so much at that point. I'm just accepting what I'm seeing on the screen.
See, at that point, I'm already dry of tears.
I think it's implied that it's his guardians. You know what I mean? That it's adults versus a child.
Interesting. I've never heard this before. E.T. is a child.
Never heard this. Yeah, he's a child, and he gets left behind.
Wow. Okay.
I have always known that to be the case without actually even thinking about it. I thought that was just assumed by everybody who watches the movie.
Elliot might say something too, like he's also a kid, or like he may actually say it out loud. But
Yeah, and E.T. acts very kid-like.
He's very curious. Oh, yeah.
Sure, with the speak and spell and the sitting in the, stuffed animals and the wonderment
see
and
candy.
everything.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to rewatch it with this in mind because I've never gotten the sense that he was a child alien. I mean, he didn't strike me as 10 million years old either, but...
Yeah, but let's say his species lives to be 100 million years old.
No, I get it.
He's only a tenth of the way there, so...
I get it. Interesting. Okay, well, I'm not convinced yet, but
okay.
I'm going to look into it.
I don't need to convince you because I know that he's a child.
So you're positive?
I'm positive, yeah. 100%.
Okay.
My number 2, Buzz and Woody from Toy Story. They have quite the arc also, where Buzz is, not Buzz. Yeah, Buzz is the new toy. Woody does not like Buzz at first. Woody's kind of the bad guy in Toy Story. Like, if you really look at it, Woody purposely does things to sabotage Buzz. He regrets those things and he realizes he's the bad guy, but it's not all accidental what happens. But they reconcile, and then their friendship just kind of grows, and we even see that friendship develop even in the 4th movie, how it evolves. And it's really interesting to see Buzz and Woody kind of grow up together and evolve as toys, I guess.
That's what they are.
They are. And my number 1, Wayne and Garth from Wayne's World. These two are clearly best friends. They got a silly cable access show together. Even when that cable access show goes national, Wayne gets a new girlfriend. It tests their friendship, but they still find each other in the end and are stronger for it. And I can't imagine a better friendship than Wayne and Garth.
Nice. I was wondering when that would...
Go ahead.
Do you want to be Wayne or Garth?
I want to be Garth just because he's a sweet drummer. I want that talent. Like, Wayne's an okay guitar player, and Garth is an amazing drummer.
I was wondering when they would come in on the list because I thought maybe you were going to leave them off by the time you get up in the top numbers, but they'd be high on my list too.
They were number 1. Zach, know which one barely got cut from the list?
Who?
Pootie Tang and Truckee.
Oh, classic friendship.
I know. It was kind of between them and Dom and Brian.
Okay. Well, you chose poorly. All right. I actually made 2 lists, and so I'm going to let you guys decide which list I do. Okay.
Okay.
So the first list I made was my top 10 Italian films. And the second list I did was my top 10 movies Luca reminded me of.
I want the second list.
Okay, Luca.
Yeah.
All right. Number 1, The Little Mermaid. Number 10. These are not in order. The Little Mermaid. Okay. Obviously, a ocean creature wants to become human, and so that's the parallel. Collects trinkets. Lots of Little Mermaid in this. It's animated. The parents aren't into it. Number 2, The Shape of Water. You've got same looking sea creature, right? In Shape of Water, they fall in love with a human woman. In this one, befriends a human girl. And people are not happy about them being friends. Children of Heaven.
Oh, yeah.
That is about a brother and a sister. And the central plot of that movie is they're looking for shoes because one of them lost a pair of shoes, and so they have to share a pair of shoes. But the town that they live in and the interaction of those brother and sister remind me a lot of the vibe of Luca, and kind of they have these small goals of winning a race to get a Vespa. It's very much like trying to get the shoes. There's a race at the end. It's about 2 kids, and I think there's a lot of parallels you could draw with Children of Heaven. By the way, if you haven't seen Children of Heaven, it's such a great movie. 5 out of 5.
It's all right.
Finding Nemo.
It's no Robin Hood, but
it's no Robin Hood. Yeah, that's true. Finding Nemo. It's a Pixar movie. It's underwater. You have an overprotective parent that is super worried about their kid and holding him back, where the kid goes on this adventure. Enough said there. There's a little fish out of water in Finding Nemo as well. Ponyo, which is a Studio Ghibli movie, has a kind of a similar thing where like a goldfish wants to be human. And so there's obviously parallels there. In fact, we didn't mention Studio Ghibli too much in our review, but there's a lot of Studio Ghibli kind of vibe to Luca. It's like Pixar's version of a Studio Ghibli film.
The director said that Miyazaki films really influenced him.
Nice.
And even the name of the town, right? It's Porta Rossa.
Yeah.
And that's a play on Porco Rosso, the Studio Ghibli film.
Yes, which is my next film, Porco Rosso, which the town kind of has a similar feel to it. The town in Luca is named after it, so there's obviously parallels there. The next one is Call Me By Your Name. So Call Me By Your Name kind of takes place in a very similar feeling town. It's got that same kind of laid back, like European kind of feel to it. And it's about a central friendship between these two boys that kind of has this like sexual undertone. And a lot of people are kind of looking at Luca through that lens of like, oh, is this like a coming out kind of allegory or something like that, relationship between the two friends in this movie. Anyways, I think there's visually and kind of thematically some Call Me By Your Name things happening in Luca.
Call Me By Your Name is not two boys. It's a boy and a man.
Yeah, it's
okay.
Yes. Yeah,
okay.
It's an asymmetrical relationship.
Yes,
that's for sure. Okay, another movie is Up, another Pixar film. Specifically, the girl in Luca reminded me a lot of Ellie in Up. She had the same kind of like tomboy gumption, like sensibility to her. I thought that those characters were very similar and would be friends. And come up with lots of crazy adventures together. My ninth one is a large category. It's the films of Federico Fellini.
All of them?
Yes. It's super clear that this movie was influenced by that era of filmmaking, and he was the king of that era. And he produced classic after classic. They have a poster of La Strada in the movie. But Nights of Cabiria, 8.5, La Dolce Vita, all of these movies feel very much in the same world as Luca does. And then my last movie, number 10, a movie that Luca reminded me of is Radio Flyer. Radio Flyer is about two brothers, and they have kind of a bad father, just like the boy in Luca does. And they become obsessed with riding a red wagon down a hill. And a huge central plot element to Luca is that they love riding this makeshift Vespa that they made down a hill and going off a big jump and into the water. And in Radio Flyer, they keep building up this Radio Flyer thing, wagon, to be able to something that could fly, so that they could fly far away. Whereas in Luca, they want to go travel the world on this Vespa. So I actually got a lot of Radio Flyer vibes from Luca without any of the Radio Flyer sadness.
Radio Flyer is a sad movie. Yeah,
super sad. So those are the 10 movies that Luca reminded me of, which is a list I'm surprised we haven't done before.
Oh, just like this movie reminded me of these movies.
Well, no, I meant as a joke, but yeah, that would be fun to do for a lot of movies too.
I think it's interesting. Yeah, interesting concept, and how we've never done the Luca one before. I don't know. So thanks for breaking ground there, Zach.
Mm.
How many Fellini films are on your top 10 Italian list?
I only put one Fellini film on my top 10 Italian.
Okay.
I'll just say them. I won't say anything about them.
Sure. I'll just groan after each one.
These are good films. Number 10, La Strada. You haven't seen that. It's about a clown.
I haven't seen that. Okay.
Number 9, Contempt. It's about a relationship. It takes place in Italy that's falling apart. It's Bridget Bardot's in it. It's amazing. Number 8, Once Upon a Time in the West. One of the best first 10 minutes of cinema. Number 7, Life is Beautiful, which is a comedy about the Holocaust. Number 6 is one of the best Jesus movies ever made, The Gospel According to St. Matthew. Number 5, L'Eclisse. I don't know how to say it, but it stands for the eclipse.
L'Eclisse. Yes.
It means the eclipse. And I personally think it has maybe one of my top 5 best final shot of a film. The way that movie ends is in my top 5 best 10 seconds ending of a film. Number 4, Rome Open City. Number 3, Cinema Paradiso, which shares a lot of common blood with Luca. It's very nostalgic of a childhood in Italy. Number 2, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Classic. And number 1 is Bicycle Thieves.
There. I saved it.
You got one in.
I got one in. That is surprisingly devoid of Italian neoclassical realism.
Yeah, there's a deep well.
Yeah.
You didn't like Bicycle Thieves, Kyle?
It was fine. I don't like the Italian neorealism aesthetic. I don't care for that kind of movie. I don't care for the naturalistic acting, the rubble. The stories are. I know they're supposedly very emotional stories, but for me, they're kind of just sort of flat. So I just don't. I've seen enough, and I just don't care for the aesthetic whatsoever.
All right. I think I've only seen Bicycle Thieves of all the ones you've mentioned.
You haven't seen The Good, Bad, and the Ugly?
I mean, I've seen that one, but I haven't seen like the Fellini movies, like the similar time period.
Yeah.
Certainly, I've seen The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. For sure. It's been a while, though. Probably been 20 years since I've seen The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Oh, you should rewatch that.
From beginning to end. Yeah. I've at least seen that one a couple times. I haven't seen like, what are the other ones?
The Fistful of Dollars and all those?
And a few dollars more.
Yeah, I haven't.
Those are good too.
I saw those once and didn't see them again. I should see them as well. Cool. Good list, guys. That was fun. Good job. Thank you for listening to this episode 484 of the Cinereelists. We appreciate your listenership. Don't forget, you can always send us an email to heyguys@cinereelists.com. REEL with an S on the end. You can send a comment, a question, a list suggestion, a movie suggestion, maybe your own Luca-related list. Any of those types of things we'd love to get via email. You could also watch this on YouTube. Go to the YouTube channel, subscribe, watch them when it makes sense to watch on top of listen. You could also follow us on Patreon, patreon.com/Cinereelists. Support the podcast. Get extra after show audio. I think this week on the after show, we're going to be basically making a plan for the next couple months of like what movie. I think we will probably be selecting what movie we are going to go back to the movie theaters for. So if you've been waiting on the edge of your seat to find out what movie the Cinereelists guys would actually go to the theater for, that will be determined on the after show this week, as well as like throughout the summer. Kind of a rough plan of what our plan is for the podcast. We're going to talk about that and other things as well. Leave us an Apple Podcast review and follow us on social media at Cinereelists on Instagram, Facebook, and or Twitter. You can also follow me on my personal Twitter or Letterboxd account at YoJRB.
You can follow me on Twitter or Letterboxd at Shaban.
You can find me on Letterboxd at PeterSKB.
Next week, we will be doing a top 10 last 10. Looking forward to that. We'll see you guys there. Until then, keep it Cinereal.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.